Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to like and subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Steve on the level, Thomas van der Zander, Kenna Bear, Gary Hughes, Measured Flat, Chris Wouters, Amish Battle Merch, Sensual Goat, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, the name's Burley, Twodwazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, JMails24, Unamento, Iron26, Endless, Golden McKiernan, Retro Bill, Level Plain Poem, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B. Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W., Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Texas Mike, Chow Cat, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Well, yesterday I was on all day. There was a lot of, I don't know, it's just chit chat as usual.
But let me ask you a question. Are there still those that come in like Humble H and still questioning the elevation angle measurements and how Earth is measured, or lumpy gas in a vacuum, or did that dissipate?
I don't recall hearing it much anymore.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah. Wait, why? Why is it good news and why is it bad news? Why does it matter?
Yeah, well, the way some people do it, it's like they're trying to undermine all the work that Nathan and everybody have put into this and trying to get it out because they're not understanding it. So it is detrimental.
Okay, but what was I gonna say? Or how do I put this in words? But the thing is, like, people are gonna do what they're gonna do. That's like the thing, right? You know, whether they want to undermine or overmine or side mine. I mean, it's their choice.
But you don't give them a platform to do it. You put them in their place.
All right. Well, you enforce that on your platform, right? As for the Discord is a bit is private. I don't air it out in front of everybody, right? It's a nice place where you can privately chat with each other. And
I forgot you're a simp.
Why
I
are you
didn't say that.
insulting the person that gives us the show lifeblood and a means for the public to join? Why are you insulting him? What's going on?
Righteous knows I'm only breaking his chops.
Can you not? Can you just say thank you?
I'll try. Thank you for allowing simps to come in and undermine our arguments here. Righteous, how's that?
Well, at the end of the day, it's still a group. Like just like you guys have a group on Skype, there's a group in Discord, and generally, like the group has dynamics, right? So it's just best just to let it flow. That's what I say.
Yeah,
'Cause
no matter how many millions of times you go through it, I guess, with people like Humble H and Lumpy. Go through it 1,000,001 times. Why not 2,000,000 times?
but I already said it died down pretty much. It's not really like it used to be. So it's just a phase. People go through phases. You know, just like on the
I don't know
FED
if
show,
Nate,
there's phases too. Now we're on a different phase, and we've been through phases also. It's organic, so to say.
yeah, I don't know if Nathan's recording yet or not. Always assume he's recording. But man, what a crap show that was. I wonder if they're talking about it on a politics server, that debate last night.
What
What
debate?
debate?
with Trump and
Oh God, why did I ask?
chimpanzee.
Don't worry about it. Don't. I wish I hadn't asked.
My sister watched a little bit. Well, she watched a lot of it because she found the last year's entertaining. So she watched it. She said this one wasn't as entertaining as the last year one. She's not into politics. She just watched it just because it was going to be entertaining.
Let me tell you what it was like. It's like say Nathan is going into Jim Pandas to debate him, and the people that are hosting it are pro Jim Panda. That's what it was like for the Don.
Well, I didn't follow the presidential debate, so neither did Nathan. So let's talk about something else. Something else.
Oh, there's a biker that almost is getting off his bike to have a fight with somebody on the highway. This should be entertaining.
I almost didn't do a show today.
Wow, what's up?
Why?
Just a bad morning. Everything started breaking again. It's entropy's a bitch. So, whatever reason, the spring that's attached to a little power switch on my coffee machine has rusted, which has increased the resistance of the spring, which means that when it now bottoms out and runs out of water, it doesn't turn off. Well, that meant that it sucked a load of air into the chamber that's supposed to boil water, which meant that it boiled a load of steam to a much higher temperature, which made the whole thing get red hot, the whole machine. And so that happened last night. I left it till this morning. When my wife went in to do it this morning, the same thing was happening. It was vapor locked. So I looked up how to figure it out and stripped the machine and started pumping water with a syringe into the pump to remove the vapor lock. But then it tripped the electric. So I'm like, oh, okay. I thought the machine had broken, but it was actually just the circuit breaker, which is good. It's the new one that I've had fitted about a year ago. So it's doing its job, which is good. But then I'm like, oh, so maybe it's just got too hot or there's got a bit of water got where it shouldn't. So I disconnect it from the mains, start putting it back together, and then it gave me an electric shock. And I didn't know there was any capacitors in it. So I'm like, did I just imagine that, or did it actually just shock me? So I thought nothing of it and carried on trying to put it back together. Then it gave me a proper pisser right into my hand. And I'm like, ow! Okay, yeah, that's definitely giving me an electric shock. And it's not plugged in. So I'm like, okay. So I called my tech guy and I'm like, any chance you can have a look at this coffee machine? There's probably nothing wrong with it. It's probably just got a bit of water somewhere that it shouldn't. And then after he'd said, yeah, no worries, I'll just have a quick look at it for you. I actually plugged it back in, turned it on, with a roll of cling film, turned it on. You know what I mean? And it came on filled with water perfectly and seemed to be functioning fine. It wasn't rattling and it wasn't vapor locked. But I'm like, but is there something that's, like grounding something to the case that shouldn't be, and potentially going to be lethal at some point when I'm not noticing or not thinking about it? So that's currently with the shop, or with Craig. He's a computer guy. He's not a coffee machine guy. He just offered once, or suggested that he'd done mechanical work on cars and it was similar to my machine. I'm like, oh, can you fix it? Can you completely service it? And he did. He completely stripped the thing and changed all the parts over about 6 months ago, or maybe less. But like I say, it's probably nothing wrong. It's just I don't necessarily want to die.
The question is, have you had your coffee yet?
No, that's a big problem.
Oh my God!
It's more that with old stuff like that, right? I employ the mentality that you buy something really good, professional grade, that's costed that even when I bought it, however many years ago, I think I bought it in 2004, something like that, and at the time it was thousands of pounds. Now they're even more. But it's always been worth, the last investment was £200 or £300 plus Craig not charging me a dime to strip the thing and put all the parts on. So it's just the parts cost. But, I've done that several times and, it's kept working. But you're like, now it's quite old. You do start to worry, should I be replacing this thing? The problem is that times have moved on, things have got more expensive, and the whole mentality of buying something like that to repair it still holds true. I've still got it and it still potentially might work if Craig finds no fault with it. But it's one of those that you think, oh, it still would be nice to just replace the damn thing. But there we go, such is life. When I've got 100,000
20
YouTube
years?
subscribers, maybe.
You got 20 years out of a coffee machine? That's some good stuff
Not
there,
40
Nathan.
years, 20 years or less.
That's what I said, 20.
Yeah, 20 years.
So the same thing happened to me, but a little differently. Like I'm in my brother's office and he has a espresso machine, you just put the pods in. And I look and there's no pods. I went searching the whole office and I found a box of espresso pods. Boy, what a relief that was. I can't go without coffee. It's insane.
Yeah. Well, over time, like, it probably took me 5 years to buy all of it because number one, I'm lazy and I don't. There's coffee connoisseurs out there that want to piss around with their coffee and do stupid things with it, with needles, and it's very, very geeky. Well, I'm not that guy. What I want is it to be quick and taste good every time. So, with that in mind, I've bought machines that do things that make life easier rather than necessarily make better coffee for whatever geeky reason people might assume it does. So, as an example, right, if you ever go into a Starbucks or whatever, hold on one sec. So you go into a Starbucks or whatever, and you see a grinder, and it'll normally be a Mazza grinder. Sound familiar? Probably haven't looked, but trust me, the machines that you see in a Starbucks are Mazzas, and that's what they use to grind up the coffee. Now they'll normally grind it into a massive tub, and then just dip into the tub, and then when they need more, they'll grind up a whole batch. Whereas I've got a Mazza machine, but one of the adapters, I think you call them, that they could put on it was like a funnel. So you could set a little set screw and it would just run the grinder for a certain amount of time and just dump the coffee grind straight into the portafilter. So you're not messing around having a tub of coffee that you've got to clean. Nothing like that. It just goes straight from the machine that grinds it, from the burr grinder, straight in the thing that goes into the coffee machine. And all you've got to do in between is tamp it, like press it down. Yeah? So in the process, one of the things I spent so much money on, it was ludicrous, because I had to import it from the States, was a thing called an auto tamp. Now, a tamper is just a handheld device that you press the coffee into the portafilter with, right? It's just a press. Well, when I was first using this machine, the thing that I found made the biggest change was inconsistency in how hard you pressed it. Do you know what I mean? You press it a bit too hard, and the thing would start back flushing. Don't press it hard enough, and it would rush through really quickly and wouldn't taste good. So I invested, I think it was $300 in this machine that looks like an old orange juice press. And it's basically two little prongs that you press this portafilter on, and then you just pull a handle down, and it's got an automatic set spring at a set tension, and it just tamps the coffee. And if you pull too hard or it's pressing too hard, the spring just engages. So it can't press too hard. It always presses to the exact same pressure. So when I've turned the machine on in the morning, I can rattle out a coffee in about 2 minutes because it's just grind, tamp, stick it in, turn it on, and it's done. But all of those little machines all cost hundreds, probably some of them thousands of pounds now. And there's just no way to reinvest in all that crap now. Now I'm not a rep traveling around and flying around the world earning a ton of money. But I'm glad I invested in it when I did have money. Even though it's now cripplingly expensive to just keep it maintained. It's like anything. You're like, at least I've got it to keep maintained. Breaking up, Neil. We're only talking about coffee, so it's not like it's that important.
Those guys in the coffee shops, they know exactly how to press the coffee. Because I know what you're talking about. Because when I had an espresso machine where I had to put the coffee in, and then I thought if you press it harder, it's better. But you're right. It's got to be the perfect press to have a good cup of coffee.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the tampers that I've seen now on the market do the same thing my auto tamp does, but with a spring inside the hand tamp. So in other words, you push it down, and if you push too hard, the spring engages, but on where you're holding the portafilter, as opposed to a machine that you put it in and pull down a lever. But, it's the same principle. So things have moved on in the last 20 years of making coffee at home. But we just don't, Britain, we don't have these machines. It's just not at all common. Whereas in the States, in Australia, in Europe, it's fairly common to have a proper home coffee machine with a proper portafilter on it. like a professional one. But in England, it's just not the case at all. People go, I've got an amazing coffee machine. Oh, really? You go and have a look, and it's like you described. It's a pod machine. I'm like, well, fair enough. I'm sure that's that's like an instant coffee machine from a pod. It's not like you're grinding up the beans.
Yeah, that's what I got. It serves its purpose. I mean, I wish I had one like.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with pod coffee machines. They often, on some days, if the humidity's wrong, it'll make a better coffee than I can make because for whatever reason, the beans themselves can be fussy about the amount of air, the amount of water in the air. Can't hear me. He thinks he's talking and someone's listening.
What you're talking about? I hear you.
Oh, okay. Maybe someone on Discord was off mute. Yeah, as you can tell, if I haven't got any coffee in me, it's all I want to talk about.
I go by the way I judge a good cup of coffee is the amount of nice creamy head that comes on top.
It's called a crema.
Crema.
If you've got when you're pulling coffee, when it drops into the shot glass or the cup, that's a good gauge of how good it is, how good the pull, as they call it, is how thick the crema is. Well, that little layer of brown stuff on top of the black stuff, that's a crema, they call it.
I love it.
Yeah, and if it rushes through too quickly, you don't get any crema. It's just black. It's just a black. It's like you get out of a drip coffee machine. It just looks like black liquid. You want it to look like Guinness.
Failure.
You ever seen a pint of Guinness being pulled where there's all this stuff floating up from the top to form the foam on top? That's what you want the coffee to look like after you've pulled it. You want it to be forming a bigger crema while it's settling. Although you don't want it to settle, you don't want to oxygenate. But for a few seconds when you're looking at it, it should have stuff rising up to form the crema from the bottom of the shot glass if it's transparent.
Yes, that's a good cup of coffee to me.
The one guy I was talking to on Omi TV, right? He was a Bitcoin millionaire. None of this made it to the edit because it's none of the audience's business. But now they don't know who it is and can't easily reference who I'm talking about. I can talk about this particular aspect, right? Just because it links to what I'm talking about now. So this guy's made a load of money on Bitcoin, and he's gone out and he's bought himself a Bentley, and he's bought himself a nice Daytona Rolex, and he's a few other things, right? And I was like, well, what do you do with your day? And he's talking about playing computer games and just kicking back, occasionally going out for a drive, seeing his mates. And you're like, okay, so you're basically a man of leisure, but he's almost looking for things to buy. But I'm like, don't get into this nuts habit of buying ridiculously expensive Lamborghinis and sports cars because you just piss all your money away. I was like, a good hobby is coffee because there's all sorts of $300 to $500 devices that you can buy. And I described one. So one of the things you can do, right, after you've ground up your beans and put it into the portafilter, one of the things you can do is with a machine that costs $200, is it's like a circle puck with a load of pins that dangle from the bottom of the puck, and you twist the puck and it just rotates the pins through this mechanical mechanism, this gear mechanism that just moves the pins around. So it distributes the coffee evenly throughout the portafilter, and a lot of them are now magnetic, so they clip onto the top. It's really geeky. Now, would I do this? No. It's just an added step that takes time. You know, if you're needing to do that, it's not, the beans aren't ground properly as far as I'm concerned. If you're having to mess around with them once you've dumped them in, they should just be ready to press down. But for other people, messing around with those sorts of things for $300, that's quite a little geeky hobby that you can go, oh, I've just seen a tamper press that costs £500. I've just seen a grinder that costs $3,000. It's not $100,000 on a set of, on a new set of brakes for a Lamborghini. It's, $1,000 on a grinder. You know what I mean? Just a rich man's hobby.
Good advice, Nathan.
That's just what I did when I had money coming in. I'm like, what do I actually want? What do I do? And I'm like, well, as I'm driving around, all I seem to do all day is stop at Starbucks. and, get Starbucks for the clients and get donuts. You're like, well, I wasn't that interested in the donuts, but I was definitely interested in the coffee. And then you come home and you'd have some horrible instant coffee. It wasn't. I'm sure I had something to make coffee with, but you know what I'm getting at. I'm like, well, I like that. And when I'm no longer doing this repping job, there's a good chance I won't have an expense account to throw money up the wall when it comes to coffee, because coffee is really expensive. Sure, it's like $5 to $10 in the States now, right, for just a coffee in Starbucks. Well, I can't afford that. And
Yep.
even when I was a rep, I couldn't afford that. It's only because I had an expense account that I could do it. Along with everything else I ate or drank while I was on the road. But the point being that you think, well, I want to still be able to do that when I'm not a rep and haven't got an expense account. So the way to solve that is to be able to make them yourself, right?
You know what bothers me?
What?
I could have made it. I could have been a Bitcoin millionaire too. I remember when the very, very beginnings of it, and I didn't want to pull the trigger. What is wrong with me? I missed it again.
You sound like someone from the 80s talking about shares. Just do it now. If you want to invest in Bitcoin, watch it for a while, see if it drops in price, buy it when it's cheap. What's the big deal?
Nah. If you got it right from the very beginning, you're too
I
late
don't
to
know.
the party now. You got to have money now.
It's nonsense. That's what people were saying in the 80s when people were suddenly making lots of money by dealing stocks and shares, and everyone just heard about how you got these instant millionaires. Where you're like, well, maybe in a certain given set of circumstances, but there was plenty of stockbrokers that were just doing their thing and earning reasonably good money or very good money. Well, it's just about picking up the newspaper, looking through the Financial Times, and going, which are good earners, which are in the FT 100, whatever. You just look at whatever it is that you want to invest in. I'm sure it's no different for Bitcoin. Now, these things have never held the fascination for me because when I was earning money, I was too young to give a crap. Now I'm old enough to give a crap. I don't earn any money, so I've never really let it bother me. But the mentality that says, "Oh, if only I'd have set my GPU to work mining Bitcoin 10 years ago or however long it was," you're like, yeah, but I didn't. So who cares? You go mad if you think like that.
Well, I think like that when I'm on my knees breaking my back to freaking earn $2,000 a week. It starts to bother you a little bit. Got to take some chances, and I didn't take the chance. I thought it was. I thought it was bullcrap.
Not playing to your strengths. If Bitcoin's investment is something that you have tailored to do and is one of your strengths and you find fascinating, then you're going to do it. Same with YouTube. I like making the Omi videos. People have received them well, so therefore in the last month or two my popularity has gone up. Great. Okay. But that was a chance, wasn't it? Well, I only did it because I liked doing it. I'm only going to do work that I enjoy doing. If I wanted to sit and trawl through Bitcoin trends, I could, but that's so boring. And maybe with my wife sat over my left shoulder, she's thinking, I wish you'd just look at Bitcoin trends so we were richer rather than making videos. But you
So
do
wait,
what
let
makes
me
you
ask
happy,
you a
don't you?
question.
Go on.
You're telling me that right now, if I wanted to focus on Bitcoin, I could still make it.
Yes.
How? It's so expensive right now.
Okay. But it's like I just said with Apple when people didn't know that Apple was going to be massive. They invested in Apple when it was cheap. So you're saying, so Bitcoin's not cheap at the moment. So don't buy it. It's expensive. Buy it when it's cheap. Or maybe buy something else that isn't Bitcoin that is cheap. But you need to really research it and know that it's highly risky. So what do you want me to say, Neil?
You know what else I missed? I
What?
missed fiber optics. There was a guy telling me about that in 1983. Invest in fiber optics. He did. I didn't. He's a zillionaire. I'm not.
Okay.
Next person that comes to me with something, I don't give a crap what it
Whoa,
is.
whoa, whoa, whoa.
I'm
What do you
investing in
mean?
it.
Why? The person who comes to you tells you to invest in something. that has researched what they were investing in and are confident in what they're investing in have the research and the confidence to invest in it. And then if they lose money, they've assessed the risk. You're saying the next man who comes to me that has a great idea about what to invest in. What about the 10 before him that didn't, that just happened to not tell you and lost everything they owned? What about them? Oh, Neil. This isn't a conversation I
I
want to
don't
be
know
having with
any of them people.
you. Okay.
And I'm very leery with the stock market because when I was away paying my debt to society, there was a guy in there, and that's what he was doing when he got out. He was going to set up a stockbroker's office, and it was all a freaking scam, Nathan. He told me I was done. They get these zillionaire oil tycoon guys, and they feed them, and they feed them, and they feed them, but they're setting them up for the big score. How do you trust anything like that?
Well, then don't. Just graft.
Yeah, he said they had one guy, they fed him, 100,000 here, 300,000 there, 500,000 here. But the whole time they were planning on the big hit. It's like the scam, like the
Long
what do
con.
you call that movie? The Sting.
Yeah, it's like Matchstick Men. It's the long con.
Yes.
Yeah, but at some point they have to do a bait and switch, which is to say they have to actually defraud the person that they're conning. Well, that isn't to say that all stock market brokers are con men that are looking to run the long con and rip people off. And that isn't also to say that people who have no intention of ripping people off end up losing people money. And like I say, all of these things are also applied to a Bitcoin market in the same way. Or
Yeah, I guess
coins,
you're right.
currency in that form.
Good and bad and everything, right? You got your corrupt stockbrokers and you got your legit ones, I guess. Right?
You don't need a stockbroker. You can decide what you're going to buy and then just go to a trader and just buy through them. You don't actually have to take their advice or anything. You just pick what you're going to buy. And then there's people out there that can facilitate the purchase. But you have very little actual connection to them beyond them facilitating a purchase.
Yeah, my luck. I'll freaking stumble across something. I'll hit. I'll become a millionaire and I'll have a heart attack the next freaking day.
Let's take in what's going on now. Explain this to my 5-year-old. So we're leaving the house, admittedly when it's very windy, to go to the library, look at books, colour stuff in. Had it not been windy, we were also going to go to the park, but while we're walking up, my youngest daughter was moaning about something that happened 5 minutes earlier. And I'm saying, I had to stop them, because both of them, although I wasn't specifically talking to the older one. And I'm saying, look around you, what's happening? She's like, we're walking. I'm like, yeah, but there's wind, there's stuff going on, stuff around you, there's people to look at, there's things happening right now. And you're in this mindset of, Eleanor took this toy off me. You're like, who cares? Taking what's happening now. Okay, so she says yes, fine, I understand. Now, admittedly, my eldest daughter's also nodding along, although I'm not talking to her specifically. We walk another 500 yards up the road, and we get to a shop. Now, while I'm waiting for the cashier, they're stood at the door and watching the leaves, like in A Beautiful Mind, with the paper bag and the leaves. They're watching that from the corner, from this sort of alcove that this shop's in. And the wind's catching this car, catching the shop, catching them, and then whipping it up into a little whirlwind that's jumping up and dancing around in a circle. And they're both absolutely mesmerised by it. Now, but for the fact that I told them, pay attention to what's going on, enjoy the moment right now, they'd have been in that shop, which is a sweet shop. Literally, it's wall-to-wall sweets. And they weren't interested in the sweets. They'd seen the sweets before. But they hadn't seen wind whipping these dead leaves up into a fury with the howling and the. It was really beautiful. When they pointed, I wouldn't have noticed it then, pointed out to me. It was just a shock that after I told them to pay attention, I'm not noticing it. I'm just waiting for the cashier, and they're going, "Wow, look at that!" You know what I mean? My point here, Neil, is if you constantly concern yourself too much with the future and how you haven't achieved something in the past, you miss what's happening right now. And yeah, you could be hit by a bus tomorrow. Part of the reason why I homeschool, or we, my wife and I homeschool, is because of that reason. If they were both hit by a bus tomorrow, you'd want to know that every moment that they'd lived and enjoyed to the fullest that they could. I'm not suggesting that I live for them dying and being hit by a bus tomorrow, far from it. But the mentality is you want to take everything out of life. And I kind of do actually live with that mentality. It's like if I did get hit by a bus tomorrow, would I feel like I'd missed out? And if the answer is yes, you're like, well, you better do that thing then. You know what I mean? If you feel like you're missing out,
Are you sure that that's the
go on. Go on.
the paper bag? I think
You're breaking up, Neil. You're breaking up. I was just going to say, if you do feel like you're missing out, then start doing research on that subject, and then you won't be.
Am I still?
Yes, you are still breaking up. I remember the passion for doing this, right? The current job I have, this, was as a combination of doing videos of audio equipment and then later in a pawnbroker. For you Americans that seem to think I'm talking about pornography. Right? So I was taking videos of the stock, all the different electronics, and I absolutely loved making the videos, but didn't have a really good subject. It's just like, well, it's just electronics, right? It's an inanimate object. Now, I could do a review of it, but that wasn't possible when you're just trying to churn stuff that people have traded in to a pawnbroker. Anyway, when you then come across Flat Earth, I remember the passion I had for it. All I wanted, to the point of frustration, was more information on the subject. So when I go to the Globebusters videos and they'd be talking about something that was unrelated, I'd get frustrated to the point where they're banning me in the chat. Because I'm saying, talk about Flat Earth. Give us your information. What have you learnt so far? What did you find out from last time? What's new? How'd you know? Like, we're talking about this at the moment. Like, well, that doesn't satisfy my passion. I just want more information on the nature of my reality now. Now I found out there's something not quite right. I want to know more. That's all I want. So you think, well, if I've got that passion for it as a researcher, if you will, watching the Globebusters videos, so, well, I'm sure I can put that passion into videography, something else that I'm extremely passionate about, and then it goes from there, and good things will happen if good things happen, as long as you work hard. It's like if I look at Mr. Beast and go, if only I'd have done some crazy games and asked people for street interviews about stupid nonsense, I'd have 200 million subscribers now. But I've got no passion for going up to people and doing pranks and saying stupid crap on the streets. Zero. So I'm not going to end up with 200 million subscribers like Mr. Beast. Am I? That's not the way to look at life.
Yeah. Well, am I still breaking up?
No, you're fine now.
I'm I'm away from home, so it sucks. It just freaking really sucks. I gotta come to New York, leave my family for a few weeks, maybe even a month. Just getting really freaking annoyed. Just in one of them moods. Coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Oh, don't get down. I'm glad we've had this conversation because I was feeling quite depressed today. Thanks, Neil.
I think you're referencing the wrong movie too.
Matchstick Men's a different movie about the long con.
Blowing in the wind and they're looking at it. I think that's a movie with Kevin Spacey. I just watched it. The kid that does these videos.
Well,
And he
fair
was
enough.
with some girl and he was watching a bag dance around with the leaves.
Yeah, that's called A Beautiful Mind. That's a different movie.
No, this was
That's Kevin Spacey.
well, I don't remember it in A Beautiful Mind, but I do remember it because I just seen it the other day. The kid was just fascinated with this bag, and he videotaped it. And he was watching it, and he showed the girl that he was I forgot the name of the movie.
A Beautiful Mind.
No. And
Oh no, it's
also
not, is it? It's called
another
American
movie.
Beauty. My bad. I'm thinking of a
Yes,
different
that's
movie.
it. American Beauty. I just
Sorry.
seen it the other night. That's a sick movie.
Yes, American Beauty, not A Beautiful Mind. A Beautiful Mind is Russell Crowe.
Yeah, that's when he's the freaking genius and he thinks he's working for the CIA or something.
Right, and
Nash.
Matchstick Men
John
is
Nash.
Matchstick Men is Nicolas Cage.
Correct.
Anyway, fun.
That was annoying in that freaking American Beauty. That freaking guy shot him at the end.
But the dad thought he was having a homosexual affair with his son, didn't he?
Yeah, well, he wished it was him. So the whole time, he was the freaking closet homo.
Maybe. He kisses the dad at the end, doesn't he?
That's a Kevin Spacey's like, whoa, you got the wrong idea here.
Yeah, exactly.
That was crazy. That felt bad for him, man. But in the end, he did the right thing because he did not violate his daughter's friend.
Anyway. Has AJ been in recently?
In politics or here?
In here. I'm hoping to have a chat with him. Like, see if we can revert back to the original way we did the Discord in politics when we were joining originally. Do you remember? You just picked, I can't remember the name of the guy that did the modding. It wasn't AJ. But the way the other guy did it originally was he had a separate room and he just brought people into the room with their questions so that there wasn't audio chaos. But of the last 2 or 3 shows, I've gone through them to take clips out, and there's 100 people or whatever in the room. Maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but a lot of people in the room. And halfway through a discussion, people just start making loud noises just to throw the conversation off track. And you're like, there's been very little that I can trim out because it's so full of audio chaos. And you're like, pff. Now, to a degree, I've lent into that just because it's like, I don't care then. You know, we know it's flat. We know it's measured flat. We've won the arguments. The rinse and repeat isn't working. But by the same token, getting some clips out of it that were concise would be nice. But whenever it comes to a conclusion, there's some white knight that just jumps in. So you get so much distance between the conclusion. It's like when Anthony Riley was saying, no, they're putting so much distance between the conclusion and the original claim that it loses all of its effectiveness. So my suggestion to AJ will be, rather than doing 3 hours, would it be not more convenient for you if it was a shorter period, like an hour, like just the live show, and then it was done in such a way that it was in that whatever the guy, I don't know how Discord works to describe it to him, but I'll just say go back and look at the first couple of shows, and I'm being assisted by the moderator bringing people in, and because it's all focused on the question and the answer, when the repetitions start, the mod's hyper focused on one person rather than trying to figure out who's making a load of racket in the rest of the room, because there's literally potentially 20 mics all open at once, which is just what happens when a good point comes.
Yeah, I don't know if AJ's away. He was doing that originally, wasn't he? And sort of just, I know what you're saying there, Nathan. Yeah, I think I did hear him in politics last week, but like you say, he's not been on our Friday show for a while. Not sure why. I'll send him a DM and see what he's up to.
Why are 20 mics open? Why are they open anyway at the same time?
Well, because it's just a big room. That. It's just because it's a big room. But I'm just saying, it's become just a less civilized version of our own space. But like it was when Flat Earth debate first started. Now, if I've got zero control over it, it is exactly as Anthony Riley described, where there's so much distance between the original question and the conclusion that it serves no value anymore. You're like, well, why is that occurring? Well, because there's white knights in there that don't like the concise point being attached to the original question, because it relinquishes them of their religion. So they're going to obfuscate with interruptions and audio chaos and rumpusing on behalf of the person that's losing. You're like, well, okay, well, originally it was very valuable going in there. Now, if it's just going to be the case that we've got complete audio chaos because it's just a room full of people who don't want their religion challenging when it comes to it being concluded, then where's the value in that? However, originally...
Yeah, it's more...
Go on.
Sorry, mate.
I was just going to say the same
Just
thing
saying
again.
that, yeah, it does sound more professional when it's done that way because, like, you know, it's more of a discussion with both points being heard and whether they're correct or ridiculous or not. Both points are being heard by an audience. And AJ came up with a list, didn't he, I think, for the debating, if I can use that word, debating sort of process procedure. But yeah, I'll touch out to him, see where he's been, because it was better when he was in.
And then we don't have to do so much. We can, yeah, we might arrive 15, 20 minutes before the live stream starts, but then on the hour, it goes into a more formal live stream. But in the same way, I have it set up for this stream with the after show and ever after show, which is just presumably a free for all. But there's varying levels of how many people are allowed to be on the stream. Whereas if it's just when I first went in there was in excess of 100 people. Admittedly, it was the first time, so there was a lot more footfall. But can you imagine being in a room with 100 people where just anybody can open their mic at any time? There's too many to keep track of.
Oh, I remember now. Yeah, he used to bring one in at a time, and they would ask you a question, and you would deal with. That's right. When we first started, now I'm remembering. Yes, we got to get back to that form.
Yeah, because now it's just we're spending 4 hours in there. But then, like I say, when I'm going back through the material saying, what can I hack out of this for a short video? And you're like, this to record this and have it crammed down to being concise would mean recording 25 minutes of material to get 5 out of it. We're like, well, that took 25 minutes to produce and will take 2.5 to 5 hours to hack down to less than an 8-minute video. It literally isn't worth the time. Now, yeah, the video might get 1,000 views and might earn me the $2 in ad revenue that they do, $1.20 or whatever it is they earn. But I'm just saying, yes, I've got to do a lot of those $1.20s and keep those doing, but I've only got a limited amount of time to do them in. So you eventually have to weigh it up and go, I haven't got enough time to commit to hacking down 4 hours of politics material. Further to that, I've got John saying, look, this isn't good for your nerves. I'm like, well, actually, I'm fine. It doesn't actually affect me, other than it does chew up a lot of time. And it's kind of frustrating when you come to the edit and it is dragged out over such a long period of time by the opponents just because of the interruptions. The most common tactic is to pass a baton. So the moment you've got the conclusion coming, the one guy will stop when he's being forced to, either by me or the moderation team who've lost, willingness to allow it to continue. And then a white knight will jump in with a new question. You're like, well, I'm literally in the middle of concluding where that guy lost 25 minutes ago. But now we're on to the new question. So the baton gets passed. And you're like, well, I'm going to now conclude it. Well, I've made that claim. You're like, yeah, but you're jumping in. There's no order to it. And in between that 25 minutes, probably the same guy who's had the baton passed to him is just causing a bit of audio chaos at an appropriate moment whenever I'm trying to make a conclusion.
Yeah.
You're breaking up. But that's what they want. I mean, ultimately speaking, that's why I've started calling it neutral platform. It's like what they really want is the ability for any decimation of their claim to be in a position to have the ability to obfuscate it. So the platform's such that if there's plenty of people around that know this isn't going well, if they start piping up, then that'll drag it out at the very least. So it won't be as devastating. It softens the blow. Got video to cover today. Same guys we covered last time when they were discussing whether or not the moon landing was fake. Do you remember? Neil's disappeared, so hopefully somebody in Discord will reply to me. We'll see.
I can't remember. Nathan. Sorry. If you just jog my memory a bit, I might be able to.
There's I don't know what to say other than it was 3 chaps that were discussing the moon landing, and I've used it for a few of the introductions to the live stream when it's got like a trailer. I've used that clip from the coverage we did last time with them, but last time we covered them, they were just talking about whether or not the moon landing was fake and covering fairly mainstream aspects of it, like waving flags on it. But like I say, when you hear their voice, I'll play a bit of it and you'll hear them. This will hopefully remind you of who they are.
Elon's ultimate vision is to like have a giant city on there, like 1 million people.
Yeah.
Go and colonize it permanently, absolutely permanently. That is, I mean, that will take decades, maybe even more.
Yeah, just self-sustaining is like a real challenge.
But so to go to Mars, you would need lots and lots, like the habitation, lots of things.
There you go. That's who they are. The channel is called Podcast of the... It's Lotus Eaters. There you go.
Did they just say to go to Mars?
Yeah.
Oh, soil in the sky, huh?
Yeah, that's where also... It's going to take a very long time to do it. But future fake your way to religious belief in sky vacuums with soil in them, yes.
Have we got the technology to go there yet?
Very close, very close. Just a few decades away. And then we'll get to Narnia.
But they can send robots up there, but we can't get there.
Up where?
There being a fake place. It's a light in the sky, one deck.
Yeah, I know. I'm just going into globe mode.
Wait, we used the word up.
Well, we're going to have 2 focuses today. Right. One will be on the rhetoric that I now want to push. I know we're still in the Earth's measured flat 2024 rhetoric, but I want to change to flat earthers' perception of what we should or shouldn't be arguing about. So, in the Feast of Nonsense, we've got ice walls. Well, why? Well, the reason we've got ice walls is because they want us to argue about an unknown area beyond a map projection of a globe that we have no real experience in. It's shrouded in mystery by the very people who want us to be arguing about it. But in reality, the new worlds were discovered in our recent history. Flat. But that's what I want to focus on. Juxtaposition with what you have just said, Neil. So they're talking about soil in the sky. The new world's on Mars. Mars is the new world that we can colonize, is it? No. We already expanded out the territory in outer space towards the horizon, beyond the offing, and found new worlds with flat maps and flat navigation systems. Those are the facts. So have they gone to Mars? You haven't. Nobody has. They haven't gone to the moon. We already covered that in the last, whatever this show's called, Podcast of the Lotus Eaters coverage. There's no sky vacuum to go through. So when they're talking about, oh, it'll be several decades before we can colonize Mars, I'm like, no. In our recent history, we expanded our known territories into the new worlds. So there's no soil in the sky. There's just the expansion of the known territory in terms of the historic representation of how new worlds have been found. And they haven't been in the sky.
Nathan, you came up with that, right?
I mean, I've come up with the logical way of putting that information out there, I suppose.
Very good.
Do you believe
I
in
was going to
Australia,
tell you
Nathan?
before,
That's what
right
spurred me
before
to
you
do this.
started talking about it, I was going to tell you that.
Yeah. I mean, great. Blow as much smoke up my ass as you like, but one deck's just hit the nail on the head. When that guy asked me, do I believe in Australia? That set the cogs turning. Why is that in there? right? Why is it that we would be, rather than saying, look, this is one of the new worlds, isn't it? That's how we expanded out our known territories, isn't it? We found it flat, didn't we? The systems were all navigation angles with respect to a plane, weren't they? And when we're doing that, you then go, do you believe Australia's real? Like, this is so out there in terms of why it would be in the rhetoric that we would be deemed to be so stupid we don't even believe Australia's real. And then when you prove that it is real, they start the same process, but about ice walls. Okay, so do you believe the ice wall's real? You're like, why is this mindset given to us as flat earthers? Well, it's so that we don't discuss the actual expansion of the known territories. And when we get to anything that could be in that regard, it's about, like I say, unknown territories in this island on the bottom of a ball. Yeah, there we go. That's what we'll be covering. Bit of Sky Vacuum in there as well, I'm sure. A bit of Narnia. A few Narnia references will no doubt come up. Go on, Neil.
I like the direction you're going.
Well, there's no arguing with it. It's like, this is your accepted history too. That's what the moon landing serves as a purpose,
I just
though, isn't it?
realized it's 9/11 today.
Fascinating. That's what the moon landing serves as a purpose. Like, well, we have got easy reference to expansion of the known territories into the new worlds. Now the developed nations and undeveloped countries. Well, that expansion needs something to back the claim that there is soil in the sky. So they come back with some soil from the moon when they do it on a stage and pretend they travel through a sky vacuum. So that they can substantiate their claims of soil in the sky. They've literally come back with some. It just happens to be the same as the stuff in Antarctica, which is also moon rocks that are only acquirable from the moon. Like, what is this garbage narrative? And why leave wiggle room? It's because it's all lies. Don't seed it with wiggle room unless it's lies. And we know why. There's no sky vacuum. There is no soil on the moon to retain or bring back from trips that have violated the second law of thermodynamics in terms of the gas we're actually breathing in physical reality.
Contraire. They have moon rocks.
You can give me any moon rock you like, but showing that it's been acquired from Narnia, you can get, it's like Turkish delights. These Turkish delights definitely came from Narnia. They were created by the witch. Okay? Because you say so. Yeah. I just travelled through the wardrobe into the snowy land of Narnia, met Aslan, and then we intercepted the witch, took her magical hands, made them create some of this magical Turkish delight. Can you not taste how magical it is? Obviously it came from Narnia.
Well, I mean, I was listening to Brian Cox the other day, and he was telling me that if an alien was on a star, say 100,000 light years away right this minute, looking back to Earth with a telescope, he wouldn't be seeing us. He'd be looking at the dinosaurs. Because we haven't quite, with that, there's a time dilation happening.
Like in the wardrobe.
To that star.
Yeah, like in the wardrobe.
This is what he was saying. This is what that people are believing this.
Yeah, where do they get these distances from?
Are you kidding me?
Well, it's not that they're kidding. It's an extrapolation of genuine church rhetoric, right? So Brian Cox is a high priest. Where's he getting this from? Well, he's getting it from Kepler and Huygens and their extrapolated distance from Copernicus' model of a globe Earth moving around the sun scaled by Huygens. So when they get light years from Einstein and use all of these scaling values to give you these vast distances to then claim the travelled maximum speed of light, they can give you these times that it would take to see something. But all of the scale for those extrapolations mathematically, where do they all originate? What are the measurements that are used to give you spherical Earth radii and Venus? You don't. You get them from flat Earth measurements of the stars with their angles to a plane. That's what you get them from. That's where these maths come from. That's where his extrapolation comes from. But for the fact that Huygens made an ingenious assumption that Venus had the same spherical radial value that was measured flat for Earth, we wouldn't have any of these Keplerian elliptical orbital values and distances. So the entire thing is prefaced with a flat Earth measurement. It's its genesis. It's nonsense in a conceptual realm invented by the bleeding church. That's where they get all their distances. I didn't manage to get that out on the chat with... Go on, Neil.
Let's be clear on it. The Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah. The point is that these extrapolations aren't the world we're living in. They're models created from measurements of the world we live upon, and it's flat. I didn't get to that with the guy I spoke to on Omi. So I chatted to that guy on Omi, and when it got to that particular point, guy's just too, and his mate in the background are just too triggered to hear it. Did you hear that? I got this guy saying space is fake. From the rumpusing behind him. And he's going, shut the F up, I'm trying to talk to this guy.
Yeah, he was more triggered about the space, wasn't there, than the actual Earth being measured flat.
Yeah, when it came to Earth being measured flat, they were more than happy to square the circle by saying, Earth's so big, when I get really close to it, I can basically accept the fact that I measure it flat. He's telling me that. So he squared that circle in his own mind. When I get to space being fake, they're really triggered. When it comes to the Big Bang being fake, they got even more triggered. So you're saying there is a God? Yeah, it's the only option. Nah, you can't say nature didn't create itself. Yeah, I can. It's a straight up first law of thermodynamics violation. Nah, nature can create itself. No, it's a violation of natural law, first law. Nah, you can't just tell me I can't say that. Yeah, I can. It's a violation of the first law of thermodynamics. Nature can't create itself. That's it. So what's your other option? There's only one. Something else created us. You can call that whatever the hell you like. It's a god, as far as I am concerned. Some people call it creator. Don't care what you call it. There's no nature creating itself when you've got laws of nature that forbid that from happening. It's just not possible. Oh, well, in violation of the first law, nature created itself. No.
Who came? How did that come to? How did that come to be, Nathan? Like you just said, the first law, second law of thermodynamics. Who came up with that?
I don't know who came up with it, but what they are is just descriptions of that which occurs always.
Okay. So it's always happening, so it's logical. It's not like somebody just pulled it out of their ass, right?
It's not even that it's logical, it's just a description. When you're describing the second law of thermodynamics, gas filling space is just an observable occurrence that occurs always. It will always dissipate into any area of volume. Hot will always go to cold. It's a law of thermodynamics. I like it when occasionally you'll see this in PC videos, right? So there was a shock and awe because they've got this situation where they've got this hot graphics card that's blowing air onto RAM sticks. Now, the PC case is, let's say it's 50 degrees inside the air, and the graphics card is blowing, let's say it's hot air, but it's 50 degrees. You're like, yeah, but the RAM is 60 degrees. Therefore, the air, even though it's hot air, it's not as hot as the thing that it's blowing over. Therefore, it's going to take away some heat from it, even though it's blowing what you think is hot air on it. That hot air doesn't make it hotter. That hot air is going to make it colder. It's a law of thermodynamics. Now, with that principle in mind, you can explain why blowing hot air on something will make it cooler. Because in our crap way of describing things, we've got these concepts of hot and cold. You're like, well, there's only really one of those. There's just hot. There's just how hot is something. And when something is less hot than something else, it will take that heat away from it by way of that law of thermodynamics. It's a principle that will always occur. You're not going to put your coffee cup down and go, well, it's a bit hot, I'll leave it for a minute, and then come back and go, bloody hell, I burnt my mouth, it's smoldering hot. It doesn't happen. Yeah, it's going to get colder because the air around it's colder. Yeah? Make sense? It's a law. It's just a description of that which occurs always. In the case of energy cannot be created or destroyed, that again is a principle that you can show in realistic effect when you show energy transference. It's not eradicating the energy, it's moving from one type to another or one place to another.
Now I ask you that because somebody says that these were all came up by man created these, but they didn't. These are things that we see happening, right?
There are descriptions. Men did come up with these descriptions.
No Brian.
Hello.
No Adam.
No
No
coffee.
Chocolate. No Eli. No coffee. Uh-oh.
All going terribly wrong today, yeah. Terrible. I almost didn't do a show. Did say this in the pre-show. I was so depressed. Anyway, we've got a video to cover today, in case you haven't figured it out, because I actually went to the effort of producing a thumbnail before the show, which I don't think I've ever done before. But given that I know that this particular group of individuals proved popular last time, or semi-same, it was one other different guy. But this podcast, which is Podcast of the Lotus Eaters, was popular last time when they were covering the moon landing. Now, with that in mind, when Liam suggested that I cover this in Master B, I'm like, yeah, definitely. And I'll produce a thumbnail in advance so people can see exactly what we're covering when we're covering it live. So hopefully that thumbnail's functional and does actually work. I asked my daughter to pick the colours, because I'm completely colourblind, and she assures me they are legible. So there we go. So we'll be covering that shortly. But in the meantime, any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
No, we have pressurized gas.
Yeah. Is there any evidence you can have that pressurised gas without a container?
Yeah, the air.
The air is pressurised gas, therefore by antecedent consequent relationship there must be containment for the air to be at pressure. And I'm asking, is there any evidence that you can have that gas pressure without it pressing on something, without a container?
Nathan, I do not see a dome. I do not see a firmament, but I know I'm breathing air.
You don't see the air
So
either.
therefore,
You don't see the air.
Can have
You don't see the air
yeah, but I have
either.
gas pressure, right?
Yeah, but you don't see it. So you're saying because you don't see the air doesn't exist. Well, because I don't see the container doesn't exist. No, without the container, there can be no pressure. Anything else?
Well, I'm constantly asked to show me the container.
I don't need to show you the container. I can show you that we have gas pressure. The only reason we're arguing about this is because the positive claim isn't from us asserting what the sky is, when there's a rhetoric from the church that suggests that the sky is a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum. And if the sky was, as is being claimed in a positive claim by our opponents who believe they're on a globe, a 10 to the minus 17 torr sky vacuum, then the gas we breathe would fill the space. Are you watching live? There is actually a new video out. So typically I release these videos that are only cut to members first. Well, in this instance, the edited video wasn't released to members first. The unedited video was. So that ended up getting quite a number of views. Well over 100 views, which for a members-only video is actually exceptional. Anyway, the unedited video ended up getting 100 views, and then I've published the edited video almost immediately after producing it yesterday. It was set for a timer when I was in bed. So it came out at 2 o'clock in the morning UK time. So you may be unaware of that if you are in the UK and watching live. Go and check it out. I can't actually remember what the hell I titled it now. I should really know the thing I'm plugging. Oh dear. I do make a lot of videos though, so it's kind of fair enough. Excuse me. So the video was called, or is called So Big It's Flat. And the reason it's got that title is because I'm talking to these two young gentlemen, one of which proved his age by showing how many tattoos he had, which I found. I only mention it because when I published it on TikTok, people were like, talking to more children. I'm like, number one, he states his age in the video. And when I, in the unedited video, say, are you over 18? Because he obviously looks young. And he's like showing me all the tattoos that he's got. Now, being familiar with the tattooing industry, I am definitely not. But what I am aware of is legally you can only get a tattoo if you're over 18. So I'm like, okay, fair enough. That's enough justification for me to say, you know, it's highly unlikely that you can be strolling in at 16, 17 to a tattoo parlour when they're going to be asking you for ID and then getting your entire sleeves done. You know what I mean? So based on that, I carried on interviewing these two guys. And the one guy is quite happy to accept that Earth is so big that when you zoom into a section that you get in the angles I'm telling him about to Polaris, that it's okay to get those angles because you're basically flat when you're at that scale. It's like, no, you're never flat at any scale if you're on a ball. But he's happy to square that circle with, no, Earth's so big I can measure it flat, even with me saying, so you are telling me it's measured flat then? And he's like, yeah, but only because it's a really big ball, as is so commonly the case. I just didn't think I'd get this higher standard out of Omi, which is great. So, notwithstanding the fact that they are accepting the squaring of the circle in that regard, when it gets to space being fake, oh my, they aren't happy. Can you believe this guy's telling us space is fake? Was one of the reactions, which again, after they've told me Earth's measured flat, was pretty epic. Some of the guys that were there while I was producing it, like I think it was Refracted, said it was the best one so far from these Omi clips. It's quite long. It's about 12 or 13 minutes long. But in terms of, you know, this is average Joe. He's self-declaring that he doesn't know much about the subject, but he's telling me Earth's so big it's okay to measure it flat, and that he's horrified to hear that space is fake and that men haven't gone to the moon. You know, and he's asking about God. So for all the justification of people who say, no, it's naturally and logically following on once you find this information out, that's the next place you go and start questioning. These guys did it all within 12 minutes. Like, bang, bang, bang. You're telling me Earth's flat? Well, I can accept that. Earth's so big we measure it flat. Right, next. Space? Fake? How dare you? Well, if it is, how is it all made? Is there a God? That was how it went. So in terms of a condensed version of this is how people wake up to this subject, it's that in spades. So that video is called So Big It's Flat. It's, like I say, a typical Omi cut from the perspective of its horrible camera and mic on his side. Awesome sound, mic and lighting, and beautiful man in the picture on my side. So check it out.
Didn't he say, sorry Nathan, didn't he actually say, well, the moon landings could be fake, but space is definitely not fake, something like that?
Yeah. He's like, oh yeah, it's a bit far-fetched to go to the moon. It's a very long distance. That was the bit that I couldn't get in. I wanted to get that in. That would have been, 100% perfect. Because when he said distance, a bit like earlier, I don't know if I did this live or in the pre-show, when you're talking about the scaling of heliocentric Copernican models with the addition of Keplerian elliptical orbits, the scale for it is all controlled within the rhetoric of their maths, therefore suggesting that you've got these absurd distances that would be difficult to travel. You're like, those distances, and indeed the fuel straw man, are irrelevant because they're inventing the distances. They've got control of all the scales. They've got control of the speed they claim the light will be travelling in those vacuums that we can't exist within because the gas we're breathing would fill the space. But all of this maths for all of these distances has all come from church origins, Roman Catholic Church specifically. But I didn't get to tell him when he was like, yeah, I don't believe in the moon because of the distance. You're like, well, the distance you're believing in came from flat Earth measurements. So, yeah, what difference does it make if you believe in space and don't believe in the moon landing? That's why they've allowed the conspiracy of the moon landing to perpetuate, because it still props up the idea that we just couldn't get there. We hadn't got the technology to get there because there still exists as a soil planet in the night sky, which it might be. I can't say it isn't. I just know it isn't in the way they've told us. There's no sky vacuum to travel to that area they're claiming is soil. I couldn't confirm or deny.
Essentially, what we're saying is the root cause for all the heliocentric religious lies and garbage all boils down to a flat Earth elevation angle measurement.
Yeah, but I can't pin it. Historically, I can't pin the time down as to when it went from men satisfying the church's need to be able to predict better when certain celestial events will take place, so they can tell the people when Easter's going to be, quite specifically, to when it turns into a reified model that people actually believe they're standing on because they're told so. There's somewhere in the last 500 years where there's a transition. Now, if you were that person in charge and capable of doing that, you wouldn't obviously have it documented as a part of historical narratives. So you can only read between the lines and infer when that might have occurred based on maybe the primary source research for certain characters that have been inserted into the heliocentric rhetoric, where the timeline ends for them sort of 180, 200, 250 maybe years ago. You go, well, it would seem that at the point that they want us to believe we've known we're on a ball for thousands of years, the timeline for those stories kind of ends abruptly and there's no more primary sources for them. So you go, maybe these are invented characters that have been inserted into the narrative maybe 300 years ago, so that at that point there's a decision by some unknown hidden hand that I hate talking in this context with, that has suggested we should actually now tell the people they are actually on that ball model that was used to better predict where the stars would be by this wacky idea of us being on a ball moving around the bleeding sun. But if we actually say that is the world, we do actually have the maths to calculate it up with things like what's on screen now, Earth curve derivations from perspective views, and then you remove, there must have been a decision, and the only reason I can ascribe to it through pure speculation is what we'll be covering today. We have expanded out the known worlds. The territories have been increased. The new worlds have been found, and they've been very resourceful. And in later history, the older natives get annoyed at the aliens that come from those new worlds to their established territories. Now, in even more modern history, they don't like the term alien. Better to call them displaced people. They don't like the term New World or Third World country because New World and Third World is a bit too familiar for somebody that might clock that that's how we actually expanded our known territories. We didn't go up to the sky vacuum to violate the second law of thermodynamics and bring soil back from the moon. That's complete lies. But at some point we definitely turned what was an expanded territory flat into a ball. And us, in our current situation, have been born and raised to believe we're standing on that ball. But I cannot, and probably never will be able to peg down the timeline for when that transition occurred. I know when the system was invented, and I know the end result. Everything else is going to be propagandized for obvious reasons. So it's a difficult one to research. We get there, and it's taken 10 years to get how we can describe what I've just described, which is an amazing feat, considering the propagandization, if that's a word, of what would have been that transition that we'll never find out. We'll never really know why we're put on a ball, because there's a good chance that anybody who even came close to knowing that has long been dead, and it's just been self-perpetuating since. We keep the lie going. There's going to be certain people who figure it out and realise its benefit and keep it perpetuated. And there's going to be certain people who just never know. They are born, raised, and die on a globe, never knowing that the flat Earth that they were actually standing on was measured to create that religious belief.
So we can't go back in history to say 1,000, 1,200, the year 1,200, and we can't find out what they would teach in schools?
Well, we can find out that they were teaching non-globe rhetoric in schools as little as 120 years ago. So from that was where I used to peg it, and I just stopped when someone pointed out that no, there's other people that are still taught much, 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 much earlier than that Earth is a globe. So you go, well, all you can peg that to is when was the final transition, and the final transition is as recent as 100 years ago. just before 10th Man disappeared. I don't want to spoil his thunder if he ever returns with this information, but he was looking at some of the Chinese navigators who were navigating flat Earth like 120, 130 years ago. And it's just that was still used in those standards with absolutely no connection to a globe. You're like, okay, well, since then they have also transitioned. But you could probably put a hard line 100 years ago and say that's when the transition was complete. But then you go from that completion point to now, the level of censorship in the media that's needed to suppress this standard information, because it is what we're discussing currently at the tip of the spear, is advanced heliocentrism, isn't it? How the heliocentric model came to measure these angles and measurements of radii for things like Venus and Earth are all flat, whether you like it or not. That's part of the measurements. And you're seeing people like Thunderfoot do it to this day, just affirms that which we've been saying for the last 9-10 months. And previous.
They made that whole crap up. That was key.
What crap? Oh, Neil's mic's a train wreck. Let's move on to the video, unless anybody's got anything to add from Discord. No Discord other than one deck. You've all been very quiet so far.
So wait, you don't think the moon landing was put in place for that reason?
The moon
So
landing's put in place.
Put it to rest?
The moon landing is put in place, like I said in the pre-show, so that where I can easily show a historic standard that discovered new worlds flat in what was previously known and can be shown and documented as being called outer space, the area beyond the horizon where the new worlds were found. To contrast that, if you're going to claim that the new worlds are actually the twinkling lights in the sky, you need something to substantiate that, don't you? So going there and coming back with rocks, look, the light said definitely soil, we got rocks from the light in the sky, through the sky vacuum. We travelled through the violation of natural law to get them. Now you need to look up to the sky if you ever want to go to new worlds. That's why we're now covering this. Good segue, Neil. So this is where this particular podcast comes in, where they're discussing the whys and start that again. They're discussing the whys and wherefores of going to Mars and colonising it.
Be there. So we need loads and loads of missions to drop loads of stuff already there. For example, there's the example of the Perseverance rover, if anyone knows about that. So we can drop something the size of a car that's completely automated, that can do all sorts of things. Oh yeah, I mean, if you play that video, don't put the audio on, but if you play it, and if anyone remembers, this is quite a few years ago now, that's it dropping into the Martian atmosphere.
Atmo what now? That didn't take long. I picked it a random point, almost. So I listened to about 25 seconds of it at a random point and thought this is a good point to dive in. So, sphere-shaped air around a rock in a sky vacuum. So there's a very limited amount of sphere-shaped air around Mars for this parachute to work. No. You see, if there was any air on Mars for this parachute to work in Narnia, then it would be dissipating into the sky vacuum that the journey to Mars just took place in. Yeah? It's a law of nature. High pressure gas goes to low pressure. So if you're suggesting that when they arrive at Mars, there's suddenly, some high pressure gas there, just conveniently to make a parachute work? No, it's oxymoronic atmosphere, sphere-shaped air. Air doesn't take sphere shapes. You're never going to fart and ball it up for me. It just dissipates into the house, letting everyone around you know how stinky and dirty you are. That's what gas does. It dissipates into whatever volume there is available. So if Mars was a twinkling rock in a sky vacuum, as is claimed, then the gas would fill the space. Now that just means that every bit of this footage they're about to assess is all fake. There is no sky vacuum to have a journey to Mars. There is no atmospheric sphere-shaped air to make a parachute work in violation of natural law. So they can travel through the sky vacuum in this rocket, but these gas particles on Mars aren't dispersing into the 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum they just travelled through. That's a violation of natural law. Gas fills space. Space is fake. Outer space, the sky vacuum, is fake.
They had a thing called the Sky Crane. Do you remember? Do you remember Perseverance? Anyone? Do you remember?
I know the thing you're referring to now. You're showing it, but I didn't.
It's a giant rover that's like the size of a car.
Yeah.
And it had a giant. That's real footage. That's the surface of Mars.
No, it isn't. I can say unequivocally that this is not, quote, real footage, because you've followed that up by saying real footage from Mars. There is no footage that has come to fruition by way of a journey through a sky vacuum. So the rocket that went and got this, quote, real footage, traversed the high-pressure gas that we're all breathing, entered an area of vacuum, and then arrived back on a rock that happens to also have high-pressure gas not filling a vacuum for you to claim that it's real. No. Definitely not. Now, it might be real as in a reel of footage, in the old-fashioned sense, like tape going through a camera. You've really filmed what was entering into the lens. Yeah, they might have dropped a car with a parachute. Because I know they can do that here, where we have atmospheric, in quotes, pressure. No, we just have air pressure. Meaning we must be under containment to achieve that air pressure. For parachutes to work, as they do here, in a contained system that has gas pressure. But if there was no containment, that is to say the rockets could just travel through the air that we're all enjoying breathing, into that vacuum, then so would all the gas we're breathing and we'd all be dead. Like that scene in Total Recall, when Arnie and his girlfriend land on the surface of Mars and they're all choking. Why? Well, because gas fills space. Of course, in Narnia and Total Recall, the rules don't apply, like rules of nature, laws that govern the way gas behaves, descriptions of that which occurs always, like gas filling space, which is precisely what both the Earth's gas and in Narnia land, where this twinkling light is actually a rock that they can travel to, through the vacuum. The gas hasn't just filled. It's all garbage. Nobody's going to the lights in the sky. And when they claim they have law of nature violations to suggest that they have when you believe it's real. It's not.
If you believe all the NASA lies and propaganda, that is.
I believe this stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Then they had a...
Yeah, that's what it's based on. You're not doing it. You look up at a twinkling orange light. That's what you do. At best, probably haven't done that. Now, I won't besmirch your character. I don't know whether or not you own a telescope or have ever looked at Mars through it. I certainly have. It's just a twinkling light. But apparently it's the new worlds. No. Recent history has shown that we expanded out our territories in what used to be known as space. The area beyond the horizon. Where we found new worlds. With those pesky aliens. I mean, displaced people. Wouldn't want to be calling them aliens. They only exist on Mars, where these rockets are going through sky vacuums, in violation of natural law, like men traversing a wardrobe. They're not. There is no Narnia, there is no wardrobe, there is no way to travel through sky vacuums to get to these places. We did definitely find new worlds, though, in our recent history. Of course, it wouldn't be best if we carried on calling them new worlds, would it? Best to call them developed countries. Don't call them third world countries, because third world is a bit too suggestive of how the actual history of our expansion of our territory actually went down. Call them underdeveloped countries. Yeah, because they're on a ball. And they were always on the ball. It wasn't that we didn't know where these new worlds were or hadn't actually experienced the people that existed on them before we encountered them and put them on our maps. I mean, they were always on the ball to begin with, so let's not suggest that they're the new worlds. And if any flat earthers come along, don't let them know this. Make sure they're only talking about Antarctica as an ice ring from a global projection that they definitely will be saying is the ring around the world. Why? Well, because we wouldn't want them talking about the actual history of the expansion of our world in outer space, finding new worlds with new peoples and new resources that we colonized and mined. Those resourceful new worlds, just don't call them new worlds anymore. Just point at the twinkling lights and future fake your way to every person on Earth. They're so far away, it'll be decades before we actually get to do this. And by then we'll be future faking a new generation of people, telling them it'll be decades. Meanwhile, in our recent history, we did find new worlds.
A thing called a sky crane where it had rockets to sort of stabilize itself and then drop Perseverance down on some tethers and drop it gently on the surface. Anyway, we'll let that play for a bit while I keep on talking. But no, so putting humans on Mars is technically a massive, massive task. So first of all, we'd need
It's not a possibility. Yeah, there's no journey to a light in the sky via a sky vacuum. The gas we're breathing would fill the space, mate. It's a violation of natural law. You've just been lied to. And what's happening now is you're perpetuating the future faking you fell for.
a much bigger and better Earth space station. Then you need a lunar station, gateway. But they also want to put people back on the moon to return.
They didn't ever put men on the moon. Again, they'd have had to have travelled through a sky vacuum to get there, as we covered with you, exact same gentleman with the moon coverage, when you questioned whether or not it would be true based on whether or not flags were waving in it and other such crap. No, the journey itself took place through a sky vacuum in violation of the second law of thermodynamics. Entropic law debunks the claim that you can go to the moon and Mars. There is no sky vacuum.
Turn to the moon.
Turn.
Yeah. But again, sort of at least semi-permanently, a base, perhaps on the south pole of the moon.
This is how you position an argument when it's in violation of natural law. Make sure that people are discussing the technology, because then you can put men to work making the technology that everybody's associated with Mars travel. So if this technology comes to pass, then we've definitely got Mars travel, because that's how it's positioned. It's not whether or not we can actually have a light in the sky be soil that we can get to. It's how much fuel did they use? Were the rockets capable of holding pressure in the sky vacuum with very thin aluminium? What? So we don't want the gas to escape the rocket into the sky vacuum, but they look through the window at Earth with gas on the surface not filling a vacuum. It makes no sense if you look at it in that context, but if we just assess whether or not there's enough fuel, it's about whether or not technology can do it. And then if you can show a rocket on the ground burning that amount of fuel, then they definitely went to the moon. No, they didn't. You can create as much technology as you like and tell us how long with future faking it's going to be to get to that technology, to get to the Mars, that you'll be dead by the time that this future faking is supposed to have come to fruition. And as I said earlier, there's going to be a whole raft of other kiddies now, potentially adults then. They're going to be told it's going to be 40 years before we've got the technology.
For all sorts of reasons, you want that or will need that. So that's one of the first big steps, is that, and building this gateway thing. So there's the new Apollo, the updated of the Apollo program is the Artemis program. Or just I think there's a few more interesting clips of the Perseverance thing.
No, none of these clips are from Mars. You're just watching what looks like 380p, low frame rate, low resolution, crap washed out colour picture of some sand dune on Earth. Because there's no pictures from a sky vacuum, ever. So if these are, as I suggested earlier, stuff that went through the camera, it's just an earthly landscape with crap colours and crap resolution. Go and check out Dilly Gill, Dillyygill, Dilly Gill, where he shows how NASA do this faking, how they do the crapo-vision. It's just so garbage. Show them it in really fuzzy. It's like it's 2024. You're going to the cinema and watching Spider-Man swing into your face in 3D. Then you get this. This is the cutting edge. Look at it. What is it? What even is this? Yeah? This crap that they future fake you with, oh, you could be there. What, looking at this grainy crap? Wow, how enticing. Let's just make it bigger. What a joke. I'm sold. Put this in the brochure.
Skip forward maybe a little bit, Samson. A bit more, a bit more. Well, anyway, just watch it from there. Again, to me, incredible footage of an alien world.
Alien like the Americans think of the Mexicans when they cross the border illegally. Like those sorts of aliens. Like people from another land. Yeah? Maybe when we describe the new worlds with those sorts of people now described as displaced, we'd better not call them aliens, because that needs an association with people being on these places. It's not like we found places with soil with people on them that we now call aliens. I mean, displaced people. Just got to stop confusing those two. The aliens exist on the sky rocks, in the sky vacuum, with the atmosphere, sphere-shaped air oxymoron that's not filling vacuums. Gotcha. Those are the aliens. On this crap footage, from the leading cutting edge at 300 billion a day, here's what they give you. Crap. You're buying this though, aren't you, mate? This is an amazing alien world. It's like how I did this in a sand pit and showed you the same thing. You'd still think the same thing because you easily duped.
I mean, it's touching down. It's really, really close to the ground at that point.
It reminds me of chocolate a bit. I don't know why. The Ferrero Rocher.
Look, they're the jets, and they're dropping it down on the tether. Looking straight up, that's the sky crane. And then it breaks the tether. And anyway, we've got lots of clever chaps working on this sort of stuff. There's one.
Have we? Got clever chaps working on the technology. What about the problem of the gas that we're breathing filling the sky vacuum? That there's no containment between us and it in this rhetoric that came from the church 500 years ago, based on flat Earth elevation angle measurements of these very same lights that you're now claiming we can travel to. And this is footage of it. This crap footage that's obviously on Earth with Earth and sky. Am I missing something, or are you just really easily duped? There's no sky vacuum.
Another link, the next link actually, Perseverance brought a little drone. Do you remember this? This was a few years ago. One of the first white pill segments I've attempted with Callum was us showing this. That's actually a little drone on Mars.
Wow. It's just like the drones we have here, working in exactly the same way that we have drones. You're so easily duped. This is just footage of a drone in really crap resolution with a filter. It's just a drone.
And it worked really, really well.
On Mars. Really? Well, it works well in the oxymoronic sphere-shaped air, not filling the vacuum. So here's the surface of Mars, and here's the horizon that looks suspiciously like an Earth horizon with an Earth sky. And let's just pretend that this is the black area of sky vacuum. I realise it's just where the frame ends. But for the sake of this example, right next to this sphere-shaped air, we've got the area they just travelled through, this black area of vacuum. So why is the drone working again? Surely all of this Martian atmosphere would immediately go into the vacuum. In line with entropic law, it's the second law of thermodynamics. High pressure goes to low pressure. Always. Without exception. But in this view, we've got the Earth, Mars, and the Martian sky. Yeah. And the Martian sky vacuum with the high-pressure gas not filling it. This is garbage. The fact that you believe this is on Mars is pathetic, when it's just a drone on Earth.
Surprisingly well. As long as there's not storms, you can sort of fly around.
Storms? Like weather systems that depend on the entropic effects of high pressure moving to low pressure? So in the oxymoronic sphere-shaped air on Mars in a sky vacuum, we've got high and low pressure systems following entropic law that create storms, but the gas isn't filling the sky vacuum. You're an idiot.
It's quite good because it's a very thin atmosphere.
Really cool, yeah. There's obviously less gravity, but much less atmosphere.
Oh, here we go. Much less atmosphere, right?
Sphere.
Yeah, atmosphere. It's got sphere-shaped air not filling a vacuum, and also entropic abidance with storms. I see. That's a big problem. See, if you've got storms developing, then you've got high pressure moving into low pressure. Well, then you've got oxymoronic Martian sphere-shaped air not moving into the low pressure of the sky vacuum. How does that work? It doesn't. This is all fake. Filmed on Earth, and you've just been lied to. Someone just try and join. No.
But these guys are really clever, and they figured it all out, and it has actually
Appeal to authority.
a roaring success.
I think we will
That-
do
that
this
drone.
but, as humanity, but I don't know if it's going to be in our lifetimes. I hope it is.
Yeah, hopefully it will be in
Yeah.
the 2030s.
Hopefully, future fate your way to going to Mars like they've been doing for years. They're not going to.
Or 2040s.
Maybe we have billions of dollars or pounds in the future. And, we're one of the select few who go.
I'm not going.
Billions? Drop in the ocean, mate. We need to sink trillions into it. Tens of trillions! Drop in the ocean, mate. You're thinking too small.
Yeah, but if there's any major catastrophe, the survivors will have to go to Mars. So there's going to be a very select club of people.
This is a marketing technique called the death cell. Yeah, we're based on our instincts. Reproduce, don't die. Well, what do you think he's appealing to here? If we all die, we'll need Mars. Give him 20 trillion.
People who are going to have tickets to Mars.
Right.
You wouldn't want to be there.
And to be fair,
And you wouldn't want to be someone without a ticket. Because I've got a golden ticket. I'm going to go to Mars.
Elon is very rich and very motivated, and he clearly wants to do it in his lifetime, and he's older than us. So
Yeah.
when he
Elon knows it's all fake. The reason he's having the success in the world that he inhabits, in the timeline that he inhabits, in the pseudo-Romanian space dimension that he peddles, is because he's happy to peddle it. He gets away with being allowed to punt his electric vehicles, do all the bullshit that he's allowed to do, because he goes with the flow of the narrative. The Western world religion is upheld by Elon. Well, in my mind, there's no way he knows it's not fake. He says it. Well, it's real. It looks so fake. You're telling me that's a man who doesn't know what we're saying? No, he knows. He just knows it's not in his interest to do what we do. Now, obviously, we have found out to our detriment just how bad it is to talk about this stuff. You'll be shoved to the bottom of the lists on YouTube. You'll be censored. You'll be ridiculed. Elon Musk has found great success by peddling this crap to idiots like you to keep it propped up. And he has afforded great success in return. But in my mind, he knows damn well he's not going to that light in the sky as he lies to you guys about it. But he must. It's a necessary evil, he might describe it as. But in my mind, there's no way Elon doesn't know. He ain't going to that light in the sky. He knows damn well it's all fake. But it looks real, doesn't it?
he's going to do everything he can to get it done in his lifetime, so we should be all right.
Hopefully. I'd just like to see it. Yeah. Anyway, so the new...
You'd just like to see it. Yeah, because unless you do, it's just belief, isn't it? That little hesitant... I'm going to listen to that again. That was a very telling moment. I'm not going to let that slide.
Do everything he can to get it done in his lifetime, so we should be all right.
Hopefully. I'd just like to see it. Anyway.
You'd just like to see it. Yeah, I'd like to see a Narnia too, if I'm going to believe it's real. I mean, I'm going to want to go through that wardrobe. Yeah? I'm going to want to experience the time dilation and the Turkish delights in Narnia if I'm going to believe that it's real. I'm just going to need to see it. Like, you just need to see the sky vacuum that they're travelling through. You'd also be seeing all of the dispersion of the gas that we're breathing at the same time as the rockets went through it, though. I mean, obviously, this is a crazy narrative because we'd have never developed gas pressure in the first place if the first particle of gas left the ground and in Narnia went into a sky vacuum. It would just dissipate immediately into it. It would leave the ground in whatever vector it's travelling and continue in that direction indefinitely until it collided with something. So we'd have never developed gas pressure on Earth if there was nothing containing that gas pressure. Your world just has a sky vacuum right next to that pressure, doesn't it? Like in your black bit next to your Martian air in a sphere shape. Yeah, air doesn't take sphere shapes. It just fills spaces.
Anyway, so the new Apollo program, if you like, for the 21st century is the Artemis program. And these are the missions that are going to take us to the moon.
I appreciate the naming as well. Apollo's sister.
Yeah. And so...
Yeah, very appropriate that your religion would be based on the names of Greek gods. How appropriate. Yeah, this is because it's your religion. So it is, it's appropriate.
They keep extending how many missions there'll be. Last I saw, they slated as many as...
This is not going to be very many, I know the percentage of my viewers, but there's going to be women out there that have got a nice narcissist boyfriend. Yeah, we'll get married next year. We'll start planning in 6 months. 6 months rolls by. When we're going to get married then? We're going to start planning. Yeah, we'll get married next year in the summer. We'll start planning it at Christmas. Christmas rolls round. We're going to start getting married. We're going to look at making plans. Yeah, now we've got Christmas out of the way. We'll start looking at plans in about 6 months' time for next year. Just future fake your way to the woman's heart. Because the effect when that woman hears it, oh, we're going to get married. We're going to start planning it in 6 months. The effect is immediately realised. It's the desire has been satisfied in that moment. No weddings needed. And the narcissist will know this. Just future fake your way to it constantly. Now, even better, if you can start looking at flowers and napkins in Homebase, because then there's this impression that you may even be spending money towards it. But a few napkins and a few flowers doesn't cost very much. Certainly nowhere near as much as a wedding. And in this respect, you can throw as much of your endless stream of money at people that will back your lie by producing technology. That numpties like this will discuss whether or not the technology is going to come into fruition in the next 20 years. It's great. What a great narcissistic way of lying to people.
16 Artemis missions. So they've already done Artemis 1, which was an unmanned, uncrewed, but full-size rocket.
We already went to the Abbey. We walked around the Abbey. I mean, it's almost like we're getting married now when we're walking around it. We're in the Abbey now, aren't we? Yeah, 6 months, we'll start planning it. What's that? We need a really nice hotel. Oh, well, let's go for a meal at this hotel. That'll be where we potentially think about. It might be one of the things we consider on the list of places that we'll get married and have our reception at. So we'll have a meal. It'll cost 100 quid, as opposed to the 10 grand to rent it out for the reception that we're not having ever. It's going to be in 6 months. I don't know why I'm laughing. It's terrible, really, because this is just pure death cell and narcissistic future faking.
Was it SLS rocket full size to the moon, slingshot round the moon and come back just to test to make sure they can still do that? And
you can't slingshot because slingshot is a description of Keplerian orbital motion, isn't it? Where do you think Kepler got his values for these slingshot orbital motions that you're going to be doing? Oh, well, they came from flat Earth elevation angle measurements of the stars to produce these models for the church to better predict when the stars would be in the places in the sky because they couldn't figure it out very well. So they had some off-the-wall thinking and turned Earth into a ball with the angle measurements to things like Polaris at its minimum for a radial value that Huygens can later infer as given them the scale because they know that the line in the sky called Venus is the same size as the spherical Earth that was measured flat. You can do all of these things to believe later in history that we're actually standing on the surface of a ball and doing slingshots with these church-based maths. Nobody's doing slingshots in Keplerian orbital motion, my friend. No, you definitely can't do these things. These are concepts invented mathematically. And their only real purpose is to better say when the stars will be in certain places. Not so you can go to them off the ball that's been used to predict where they'll be in the sky, measured flat with a flat ground. I mean, that's utterly absurd. I mean, that is also the religion that we all in the Western world and the majority of the world, in fact, believed, for us, past tense, to this very day. But we're not. You can't slingshot around the moon. It's a Keplerian orbital motion.
that was a complete success, or almost complete success. when the thing landed back on Earth, they realised there was a couple of things that weren't 100% perfect, but largely, sort of 95, 99% all went well. They've already picked the crew to go back. If you scroll down, Samson, on that, a little way down, you see the crew.
If they ever leave the ground claiming to go to Mars, and they do interviews that say they have or are going to, I'm not going to call it until they do actually suggest they've done the mission. Like the NASA astronauts. They're all liars. The ones that say they've gone to the moon are liars. They haven't. Now, this crew are either being prepped for or already know that at some point, if they're going to suggest they've been there, they're going to have to lie. Now, maybe they're in the stage that the NASA astronauts are in. Of course you're going to go to Mars. Now we need to do the training and show you the technology in preparation for going to Mars. So they're just being put in the same position as these numpties, future faking. In other words, they don't tell the people on this list that they're not really going to go to Mars, but you're going to have to lie about it. They tell them they are. They are getting married in 6 months. So when they tell the world, I'm definitely going to Mars, people will believe them. Like they believed that spinster when she told the world she was getting married in 12 months.
I hope
It is a bit diverse, yeah.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, thank God. The first person of colour and the first woman to land on the moon.
To be married in the Abbey with the beautiful hotel reception.
So anyway, that's the crew. So Artemis 2, they're going to do a crew, and that's in September next year. It'll be like Apollo 10, where they fly around the moon with people in it, fly around the moon and come back, and then Artemis 3.
No, they won't. So this bit of the lie, that'll either get cancelled, like so many others. I vaguely remember a guy called Tim who was claiming to go to the moon about 12 months ago. Do we all remember Tim? A member of the general public in America that was told he was going to go to the moon? Why isn't Tim coming back telling us he's been to the moon? Oh, did that fail? Oh, is this the latest one? Maybe this is Timmy. We'll find out.
3, which is meant, I think, in 2026, same crew, I believe, is where they actually plan to land on the moon.
No, they won't be going around the moon. They won't be going to the moon. They won't be travelling past high-pressure gas that we're all breathing into an area 10 to the minus 17 torr sky vacuum to slingshot in a Keplerian motion derived from the church's mathematics of predicting where the stars will be. It's all garbage.
And it'll be Elon's
That'll be an important
Starship.
first.
It's fun with
But
us.
they're just going to yo-yo between it, aren't they? Going to the moon so we can prove it is really a new world, unlike the new worlds we discovered flat when we navigated with these stars that are now being claimed to be the worlds themselves. We found the new worlds with the stars by traversing the world flat and measuring the angles to them. Now, oh no, we're not going to find new worlds with the stars. The stars are the new worlds! Look, Elon's put a crew together.
Sequels, the
And I think they're going to land.
Fast and Furious 20.
I said they're going to land at the South Pole, right? Yeah, Artemis 20. It might be. I think they're up to 16. I've heard somewhere. Saw a video somewhere. Because they want to build either permanent or semi-permanent human presence on the moon, probably at the South Pole where there's water ice in the craters.
Of course they do. Yeah, they're going to populate Mars. And also, Aslan's putting a whole army together in Narnia and they're recruiting. So, be here or be sphere for the recruitment process over in Narnia. They need as much help as they can get. They've got a war going on. The Fawns have turned on all of them. The Lions are revolting. It's a mess in Narnia. They're going to need help. So, yeah, they're going to need money too. I'm going to set up the Narnia support fund.
And the science is there or nearly there to make fuel.
The wardrobe science is very close to complete as well. They're going to duplicate the original wardrobe in 2 separate locations so they can double the war effort in Narnia. And also, where all the naysayers said that the fur coats wouldn't survive the trip, we've got nanite coats now. The technology is so advanced, it's amazing. And many, many fruitful hours have been put in by many hard-working men to create the nanotechnology fur coats to traverse that wardrobe.
And all sorts of metals and materials that are on.
All sorts of furs and synthetics to go through the wardrobe. Yeah, you're talking about what the technology, what? Going through the sky vacuum. So would the gas we're breathing. It's never going to change. All of this is garbage.
On the moon, you build things out of stuff that's on the moon.
Yeah.
Rather than
You have
paying.
to do it. You have to do it from local.
But what, you'd have to mine it, like get resources from it, like we did on the New Worlds, the ones that we colonised in our recent history when we traversed the world flat into outer space and found new worlds and mined them for their resources. Of course, the moon's got all of that going on, and Mars. Those twinkling lights are where we can mine new resources. Of course.
Manufacturing because of the reason you outlined. It's too much to take.
Too expensive.
orbit.
Yeah. Every pound of weight you take up into orbit costs.
You can actually even make solar panels for energy from lunar regolith. I mean, it has a woeful.
Where are they getting this garbage from? I mean, seriously. They're under the misapprehension that they can go to a light in the sky and mine it. The soil in the sky.
Light to energy conversion rate, but because you can make it there, it's still superior. So you make it out of regolith.
And with water ash, you can, break up the hydrogen and the oxygen, and there's all sorts of very clever things that can be done.
Well, you break the water into hydrogen, which is rocket fuel, and oxygen, which you need to breathe. So yeah.
Yeah, you'd also need it to be under containment, though, wouldn't you? Like the pressure that we're breathing here on Earth, that would dissipate into the sky vacuum if any of this narrative was true.
And to fire the engines as well.
Yeah.
You need oxygen.
Through the sky vacuum where all the other gas would be expanding into. It's all fake, the gentlemen. If you're unaware, perhaps let these gentlemen know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment underneath their video that alludes to the fact that they're discussing an area of volume that isn't real, called the sky vacuum, otherwise known as outer space. So there is a link going by in the live stream chat right now if you are watching live. Please do actually go to their video right now as I'm doing this call to action and leave a quick comment that says, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Please don't swear or be insulting, as they will just immediately remove your comment, and rightly so. But just politely allude to the fact that we're helping them understand the garbage rhetoric in violation of the second law of thermodynamics that they are peddling on behalf of their overlords. Somebody wants to add something from G+. No. So yeah, please let them know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment underneath their video. I'll do this call to action a couple more times and explain the reason why I do this. You'd presumably think, why are you promoting these people if they're essentially against what you peddle on a daily basis? Well, it's because we get no algorithmic love whatsoever from YouTube. This is considered favoured content, which is just another way of YouTube saying unfavoured content, that's us, is censored. But that doesn't sound very good. So other more favourable content is promoted above us. In other words, we get shoved to the bottom of the list and get no YouTube love. So, in the vain hope that if someone like Podcast of the Lotus Eaters were to respond, they'd do the same for me and put a link to my video in their response that says, nah, yeah, we can have thunderstorms on Mars with high pressure going to low pressure to create those systems of weather, but it doesn't apply to the sky vacuum where the gas isn't filling from the atmospheric sphere-shaped Martian air. That doesn't apply to the sky vacuum that they travel through and traverse the high-pressure gas that we're breathing and wave goodbye at the Kármán line. Because gas go down, go boom, boom, go splash, splash. Maybe employ gravity as a get-out. Like a non-force of pseudo-Riemannian bent space-time is going to somehow violate the laws of gas behaviour. Anyway, hopefully that call to action is long enough for people to actually have toddled along to the podcast of the Lotus Eaters and let them know that at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment that won't immediately get removed, in the vain hope that they would do the same for me if they were to respond to this video. Or anybody else for that matter. Chance would be a fine thing. Have anybody from the Discord or my G Plus panel, for that matter, got anything to say on this podcast as we're coming towards the end of this live stream? And I haven't heard anything from anybody pretty much. Come on, help me out. Asking you to join in.
I'm in the garden because it may sound bad, but yeah, it sounds like these guys are just like agreeing with each other about concepts that aren't proven at all.
Yeah, in the back of his mind, the one guy knows that he just wants to see it. Now, it might be me reading too much between the lines because he's talking about seeing Elon Musk produce the technology to do it in future, and he wants to see that, but that just means he's got very low standards. I'll employ a higher standard and assume the best for him, which is to say that in his mind he's going, no, I actually want to see this. That is to say, if I'm going to believe in a sky vacuum, I'm going to need to see that that's the case, that I can go past the high pressure gas into an area where gas isn't filling, that's 10 to the minus 17 to a vacuum. He can't, he won't, it's a violation of natural law. Space is fake, gas fills space. Anybody else? Thank you for piping up, Flat Earth Ranger. You there, Neil? Did I do a good enough job explaining the juxtaposition of the actual expansion of our flat territory into the new worlds and the aliens that came from them in what was formerly known as outer space towards the offing? That would be the horizon. Not up. Out. That's how we actually found the new worlds. I'm saying this for my audience more than anything else. We're given, when we arrive in Flat Earth, a standard Flat Earth rank and file rhetoric that we're supposed to peddle and regurgitate about ice walls at the edge of a known territory that's been created by projecting a globe-shaped map onto a azimuthal equidistant projection. Well, when you do that, you end up with this ice wall that we're supposed to defend or argue about or speculate what's beyond. And we don't need to. We have expanded out the new territories, and we called them new worlds. They were found in outer space, when that area beyond the horizon that we hadn't yet explored was undiscovered. That's what we called it, outer space. And then at some point in history, outer space stops being the area beyond the horizon, and we're told it's a big ball, you just go around and come back on yourself. There are no new worlds. It's like the scene in Truman Show where she pulls down the map and says, it's all been discovered already, there's nothing else to see. Right, okay, but in our recent history, we did travel out with the stars, measuring them flat, finding our positions and tracking their positions and locations with respect to the ground that they were above. We got extremely accurate documents, and we're even able to predict their motions. All flat. And from there, we go, actually, no, it's probably best we don't find any more new worlds. Let's just point at the twinkling lights we use to assist us in finding these actual mineable, colonizable territories, and just say the lights we use to find them are actually the soil now. That's the dupe. And then you get numpties like this discussing the technology that they're going to employ to go through a sky vacuum to an area that they're seeing on crappy low-res footage of a parachute working in atmosphere that's not dispersing into the sky vacuum they just travelled through. The whole thing's preposterous. When you break it down, it is quite amazing that we ever believed in this crap. So far-fetched.
They did a good job.
Oh, thank you, Neil. I'm very pleased to hear it. Hopefully a few of the audience will actually go to them and let them know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment underneath their video. And hopefully they'll learn something, as much as I've called them numpties a few times. I don't think it's the case. It's said to a certain degree for dramatic effect, but it's also my projection of my own inadequacies when it comes to 10 years older me looking at this subject in a similar vein, or 15 years older me, I should say, when I was looking at Science at NASA podcasts and just having that empty feeling that I get the sense or impression this guy was expressing when he's like, I just want to see. Like, yeah, so did I. When you're being peddled artist rendering from NASA after artist rendering and endless promises. I remember all the promises of going to Mars and finding water 5 times. You know, like we hadn't remembered the last time they did it. And then when that starts to get stale, you get this. Oh, we're going to send men there now. It's just going to take 40 years or so. Anything else from anybody else? No? With that, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Well, I wonder if we'll get anybody else joining today. I think Brian and Adam are both doing their thing. Must not be mentioned. I had Brian on my case because I'd plugged Ballbusters and I told people that it was an important show they needed to tune into. And he's like, "What did you say?" In a Skype message to me. I'm like, "I didn't say anything." Ask Adam. He also didn't say anything when we told people how important it would be to tune into Ballbusters on Saturday. But it is important that everyone's there on Saturday. Ballbusters is going to be a great show.
Anything in particular?
Can't tell you. I'm sworn to secrecy.
All right.
I'm being dead serious. Like,
Check it out.
it's so much so that Brian contacted me to make sure I hadn't said anything.
All right. I'll check it out.
Yeah, very annoying. I was going to be doing the book today. Doesn't look like that's happening. Now, we did make a start at the end of last week, so hopefully we'll be able to get into the swing of it before the end of this week. Did you like the thumbnail? Anybody see the thumbnail for today's show? I turned a laughing, crying
No.
emoji into like what looks a bit like Mars, and then stuck a model of a SpaceX rocket on it.
Nice. My phone's been in my pocket, so I didn't see anything that you were streaming.
That's all right. And then the title got a laugh as well, so I called it Live Mars Trip.
Nice. How'd the show go? I jumped in earlier, but then I jumped back out. How'd it go? Any numpties join?
No, not as yet. That's okay. I'm actually I might be keen to have a shorter show today. It's been a stressful day. If the conversation doesn't pick up, I'll round out shortly.
Yeah, everyone's kind of like quiet. You're gonna play a video?
I did in the live show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Mars video.
I'll check it out on the YouTube when you post it.
Yeah, they're covering Elon's Musk activities, and we're covering them being duped by Elon's claimed Mars activities.
Nice.
Yeah.
I must say I enjoyed the analogy about the marriage, about how they keep pushing the date back or they're waiting on it forever. I wonder if anyone's done a tally of, the things that have been done or the things that we have to wait for in the future.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Just tally off a list. They said they'd go to Mars, then they didn't. They said they'd go to the moon here, and they didn't. They said they'd have this trip, and they didn't. But again, it's interesting, but it just affirms what we were talking about on this show, right? Future faking. Most people have got a short memory, so they can't remember 5 years ago when they were saying in 2021 we'll be landing on Mars. People just forget.
Yeah, I shouldn't make a list. I've been thinking about that for a while now.
Do you agree with my analogy? It's just future faking, a psychopathic tactic.
100%. It's all mental trickery.
It's traumatizing though. Thinking about like just practical like I remember my mom used to always say maybe. She never said no, but she'll say maybe, and it always like just kept you on the carrot, like chasing it, like that hope and that dream, like oh maybe we're gonna do it. She never did it, but that's why she always said okay, we'll see, maybe. Yeah, she never did it. That's what NASA reminds me of.
Yeah, I was saying this in the pre-show when I was doing something with my kids, trying to say to them, look, we are doing it. This is happening now. Enjoy it because it is happening. As opposed to, we might go to the park later if it's not raining. We might. Yeah, we might. Oh, we'll get excited now. It's like, well, I'm just taking advantage of your current excitement in the moment for something that might happen but won't. But it's achieved its end. You're excited now, right? You're happy now. Well, that's jobs are good. Don't need to take you to the park now. You've already had the happiness.
Yeah, they get tired and tuckered out just being happy. The excitement alone wears them down.
Well, exactly. This is the essence of future faking. These guys are being told, won't be long now before we go to Mars. Woohoo! So exciting. Let's talk about it. Let's make a show. For what?
Oh, yeah. A couple of years ago, if you remember when I had the asylum and remember you came on and did some interview, back then we had all kinds of globers. You know, oh, you'll see in 2024 when we're landing on the moon and we're going to go back. And we even made bets like, oh, we know we're not going to go back. We're not going to be landing on the moon. We're not going to be there 2024. And then they're all womp womp. It got pushed back to 2025. And now another womp womp. Now it's 2026. Like, come on, man. When are they going to give up? They're waiting for their dad to come home with the milk. Like, give it up, bro. He's not coming back.
He only popped out for cigarettes. He'll be home soon. I'm sure he's just got waylaid.
You ran out of gas, probably. I don't know. We'll see.
Probably ran out of gas. He's probably just held up at a hotel. He won't be long. How long's it been, Mom? 6 years.
Any day now, guys.
Any day now. Any minute.
Yeah.
All right, kids, tidy the house. Daddy might be coming home later. Tidy the house. Get excited. Daddy might be coming home. Have you heard something? Maybe.
Yeah, there you go. He brought that right back into reality for me. Once again, traumatizing.
I love it. Got a future faking mother on the someone with a future faking mother. Perfect timing.
Yeah, man, she's infamous for that. Well, she was when we were little.
I'm not suggesting your mother's a narcissist, but narcissists are quite common. So I think it's 1 in 5 in the Western world. People are narcissists or psychopaths, some people term it. Either or. Total lack of empathy.
Yeah.
And that's what it boils down to. At the point that you've told, you know the reaction you're going to get if you're a narcissist when you tell somebody something that they're going to like hearing. And you know that that's what they want. People want to be happy, but you can't empathize with the joy that they're getting from the actual thing that's going to occur that then doesn't. And the disappointment is irrelevant because they've got no empathy to appreciate that either. They just see a reaction. And then they often will just monitor what other people do in that circumstance so they can emulate it next time. Oh, the people around have got upset when there was no marriage. Oh, okay, I'll emulate that. So there's not going to be a marriage in a month. No, I'm really sad about it. But I'm sure we're all very sad that we didn't get to the moon in 2024. Very sad. But on the upside, going to Mars very, very soon.
Maybe.
Maybe you can come.
We'll see.
Maybe you'll be there.
Yeah, it's quite comical at this point. And man, I'm starting to have some like I'm feeling like I got a call. Sorry about that.
Yeah, you broke up. I thought something had happened.
Yeah. It's as I was saying, I'm starting to feel a little empathetic for those guys, man, because they've been like waiting for it since before 2020. They've been waiting for that to happen. They're not going to get it.
Yeah, I see the people peddling their dupe that they fell for. So they've been future faked into believing that they're going to be going to Mars or the moon or the whatever light in the sky that they've been told they're going to go to. They start coming to the comment section because NASA have just made some announcement. I'm not saying they have today, but you know what I mean. And they'll be like, you're all screwed in 12 months' time. Ha, ha, ha. I'm like,
Right.
what? So really what this is all about is you being able to tell me that you believe what they've just peddled to you, and telling me will make you feel better because I'm still out here talking about space being fake. No, but they're going to go to Narnia in 12 months. They got the nanotech coats all sorted.
They got the Gucci spacesuit designer suits. It's crazy. These guys are crazy that they
Yeah,
believe it still till this day.
They tested those coats in the Arctic. Really durable.
Fashionably durable.
Yeah, now look at this live footage from Narnia. It's like an alien world in 360p. What do you mean it looks like Antarctica? No, it doesn't look anything like Antarctica. It's got a blue hint to it. Put a filter on it. What you trying to say? Mars's sky is orange. Our sky is blue. Obviously, it's not our sky in this footage. Mars sky, it's orange. Oh, you guys are so stupid. You stupid flat earthers. Why would you think it's the same sky? It's a different colour.
Meanwhile, you could pick like 7 different colors on your phone, ambient, cool little filters, and they don't think NASA can do that. It's like, what? Where's the logic in that?
No, it'd be cheaper to go to Mars and get the footage than it would be to fake it with a filter. What are you talking about?
Right?
Do you know how expensive faking stuff is? It's cheaper to go to Mars. Just get the footage. This is what they did. Cheaper. They could show him anything, couldn't they? Look, here's a drone.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a drone. Well, it must be on Mars then. It's a drone.
Yeah, it's got to be because they said they spent a lot of money on it. So they wouldn't just leave it here on Earth and film it because it's a lot of money.
No, you are right, actually. I just looked it up. It wasn't any normal drone. That drone cost 20 quadrillion bazillion dollars. Therefore, it's definitely working in Mars.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's the size of a car. Or a washing machine, whichever you like.
Speaking of that, didn't their drone apparently stop working? It's no longer working. Didn't it break?
It lost Wi-Fi.
Yeah, but Voyager's still kicking after 60, 70 years or whatever long. Maybe longer now.
Yeah, it's got 286 inside, Intel inside. Awesome.
It's got a couple old school resistors and capacitors that drone didn't have.
It's running on valves or something.
Right. It's amazing. These guys think they're sending a signal that far, making it turn left or turn right,
But that far, there you go.
receiving things back.
Hang on. That far is a value that they've come up with their scale in their model, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
So when the guys I was talking to yesterday were like, yeah, I think it's a bit far-fetched so we can go to the moon because it's too far. You're like, where do you think you're getting the distance from? Flat Earth measurements and scales. AQE.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's strange, right? They're always having an altitude from our position. It's really interesting.
Yeah. But when they say, oh, it's going to take ages to get to Mars, you're like, why? Well, because it's so far. Okay, how do we know how far it is? Well, we measured it. How did we measure it? Well, with the heliocentric Keplerian and Huygens scaled model that we derived from the flat Earth elevation angle measurements to the stars off a flat Earth. That's how we know how far. when we take that flat Earth angle measurement and put it into an orbital motion with an Earth that violates the measurement you took, it's really far. Okay.
Checks out. It's a Glober. Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Did you find out if Adam and Brian are working together tonight, Kiwi? Clearly not.
Don't know yet.
Fair enough.
Trying to get a handle on things, see if they pop in here, see what's going on, how we're going to break this up.
It's really quiet. I'm considering rounding out because it's so quiet.
Yeah, everybody's on listening mode, just chilling. 9/11, I think a lot of people's minds are maybe on that. I don't know.
What does that
On
have
X,
to do
there's
with
a lot
anything?
of
Why would 9/11 change people's habits for a day? I don't get it.
I don't know. I think it's just there's, well, at least in America, there's a huge, like, everything becomes 9/11. Like, everywhere you go, you're gonna see people like never forget, and on in the algorithm of your YouTube, it's gonna be pushing 9/11 videos, and on your phone, it's just like social media. Like, if you just flip through videos, like, it's just like they want, I don't know, just a psyop, I think, to be honest, the way they push it on us. But I know on Spaces, there's a lot of like 9/11 like marathon, and like all these people hosting all these 9/11. They have all those documentary guys from way back then that were like exposing it being an inside job, and you have all that going on right now too. So I don't know.
I see. So on the anniversary, both the people who go along with the mainstream narrative and the people that claim they can debunk it all sort of pipe up all at the same time, and that's where everyone's focus is in this arena, right?
Yeah.
I see. Well, maybe we can all
For
indulge in
one
that.
day, everybody gets along.
No, it's fairly standard divide and rule, right?
Yeah.
Plus, if you've got like a room full of flat earthers, like you probably have here, I mean, we all know how Earth's measured flat now, and latitude lines and elevation angles, and there's not much more to talk about on that front.
Yeah, and we will
Unless
continue
you get a
to do so.
Glober in. Trying to...
We'll continue to do so tomorrow, because with that, I'm going to round out this show and say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus Panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.